Thank you, John Roberts. Hello again from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We are set for the third race of the year. NASCAR Xfinity Series teams hit the track tomorrow. Right now, it's practice. It's Fast Friday, presented by K&N. And the weather, spectacular all weekend long. Right now, we're at 79 degrees. Going to go up into the low 80s. Track temp is at 97. I would say it will reach triple digits. Here we are with Michael Waltrip and America's crew chief Larry McReynolds. I'm Adam Alexander at Las Vegas. Second week in a row on a mile and a half, but this place totally different than what we saw last week, Michael.
Yeah, and the garage is buzzing down there about this racetrack. The speeds are going to be up. There's a lot of grip. There's a new tire. There's so many things these crew chiefs and teams are looking forward to getting on the track and finding out. Remember a year ago, domination by Kyle Busch. He took this place by storm, led every lap but one. Last week in Atlanta, we saw parity, Larry McReynolds. The Fords, the Chevys, and the Toyota looks like they're all evenly matched.
They do. And Michael, you mentioned a new tire that Goodyear's brought here. It's the same tire combination that's on the Cup cars. We just had an hour and a half of Cup practice, but it was more about all qualifying. These Xfinity Series drivers and teams, they have 2 one-hour sessions to get ready to qualify and race. Cup practice, the cars are right around the bottom. I tend to believe these guys may make some longer runs, and maybe we'll start widening that groove out.
Michael Waltrip said it 1 year ago, all about domination, and the guy out front, Kyle Busch. For more on Driver 18, let's go to the garage and hear from Chris Neville.
Well, Adam, it's the first leg of NASCAR Goes West, and this weekend Kyle Busch comes out here without his crew chief from last weekend after winning the race in Atlanta. The 18 team didn't pass post-race inspection. Talking to the team today, they said the ride height was just off, mainly because they're still learning about this aero package and how the car settles throughout the race. So they just had their numbers wrong last weekend. So last weekend's crew chief, Scott Graves, having to stay back in North Carolina. This weekend's fill-in crew chief, Matt Lucas. Matt Lucas is in charge of the Xfinity shop back in North Carolina and has also worked as Kyle's engineer on the Cup team. So after his success from last year, Matt Lucas coming here filling some big shoes this weekend.
And Lucas has a couple of wins in the Xfinity Series when Matt Kenseth was behind the wheel. Here it is by the numbers, challenging into the day for Team 18 in Atlanta.
Well, Chris Neville reported too low in the front. The Xfinity Series cars, they have a ride height through, unlike the Cup. But the thing we have to promote, NASCAR gives these teams a tolerance in post-qualifying and post-race. They well exceeded the tolerance with both of the front corners of that race car.
And you know, Larry McReynolds, as America's crew chief, when you get a tolerance, you take the tolerance. And that
just blow right past what's really legal.
Kyle Busch getting ready to saddle up. He was so good here a year ago. A couple of years ago, it was all about Austin Dillon, who dominated the race here. Let's get a report from the RCR side of things and say hello to Matt Yoakum. What's up, Matt?
Well, good afternoon, guys. And Larry and Mac touched on the fact that there are 2 practice sessions today, and the approach that most of the teams that I pulled in my area is simply this first session is more of a test and tune. They want to see what this new Goodyear tire requires. More air pressure, less air pressure. How much drop-off will they see? And does that back up to the sim work that the engineers did back at the shop in Welcome, North Carolina? And then in the second practice, that's when they'll drop the hammer. Brandon Jones, great qualifying effort at Daytona. Here a year ago, he started 5th. They certainly have a lot of speed. They're looking to see what this 33 car will show here early on in practice.
Very impressive job by that team last week. In a backup car, rallied to the front after starting at the rear, and he learned a lot, no doubt, at Atlanta.
Yeah, Matt mentioned got that 6th place finish a year ago. 2 years ago, he had a top 5 finish in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race here.
William Byron, Charlotte, North Carolina teenager. That's a guy that the garage is talking a lot about. The success he's had and such limited experience, Adam. He learned how to race online. iRacing was what got him started. He got behind the wheel of the Legends car, eventually late models. 7 wins as a rookie in the Truck Series last year, and this season is starting out very promising for William and his team.
3 drivers have finished top 10 in the first 2 races of the year. Brad Keselowski, no surprise. Austin Dillon, no surprise. The other one, the rookie, William Byron, who made his first career start in the season opener at Daytona.
Which makes him the only NASCAR Xfinity Series regular to have top 10 finishes in the first 2 races.
And talking to him down in the garage, Adam, he said that they had a test here. They tested at Atlanta. They didn't test exactly like they hoped to. They went to Phoenix for when we're going next week, and they had an awesome test. So he's very confident about this mile and a half, and he's looking forward to Phoenix and all the races.
Listen, not out of the gas hardly at all. He started picking it right back up about the time he let out of it, Michael.
Is that what you call picking them up and putting them down, Larry? Because
Yes,
he is
sir.
on it. And exactly the line you want to see. That thing got right down to the bottom of the corners. But these corners, you know, Larry, are rough. The car wants to bounce around. See the car moving? But inside the car, Williams' hands are pretty steady and solid. That's a good opening run for him.
He's quickest right now. One of the big advantages for William and the other rookies, they get an extra set of tires, so they may have a little bit of a different game plan in how they approach our 2 practice sessions. New colors for Ty Dillon this weekend, driving the 3. Had that early spin last week at Atlanta. They battled back, could never really get the car where they wanted it to be. But when you look at RCR's history at Las Vegas, I think all these cars got a real good chance to make a splash tomorrow.
You know what I was impressed with, Ty? He came on Race Hub with us on Tuesday, and I thought he did a really nice job. Nice job. Subbing for what was then on Tuesday, his sick brother Austin.
Yeah, Austin was going to be with us. He got sick, so Ty came in. Outstanding effort. And coming off a huge run at Atlanta, top 15 in Sunday's Cup race. Really good for he and Booty Barker and that entire Germain group. So 8 cars have been on track. The early portion of practice here at Las Vegas. The top 5, William Byron, Brandon Jones, Daniel Hemrick, Ty Dillon, and Blake Cook. Opening practice of the weekend for NASCAR Xfinity Series teams underway at Las Vegas. And Team Penske has jumped to the top of the board. It's Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski 1-2, followed by Kyle Busch, William Byron, and Brandon Jones, your top 5. And a few drivers yet to take to the track in practice. 11 in all on the 15-minute clock to begin this session. Some penalties carrying over from last week at Atlanta when they had some issues in the inspection line.
And I saw Morgan Shepherd in the 89 just pull out there. Your penalty does not start until your driver is buckled in the race car and sitting on pit road. You can't serve that penalty sitting in the garage area.
I think it was Darrell Wallace Jr., Austin Dillon, and Matt Tiff that were out there well before practice began. They wanted to make sure they were knocking that time out as quick as they could.
And you said timeout. That's what they're in right now. They've been put in timeout because they didn't play fair in Atlanta.
Did you go to timeout a lot as a kid?
Yes. I rarely remember being out of it, actually.
I look at Kyle Busch. It was hard for me to believe last week in Atlanta when we were talking about that race that Joe Gibbs Racing had never won in the Xfinity Series at AMS until last year. They go back-to-back, but the victory for Kyle Busch last Saturday not near as dominant as a season ago. In 2016, he led well over 100 laps. I think it was 119. Last week, starting out front once again, but he didn't get to the front till late, led 26 laps, and picking up career win number 87 in Xfinity.
If anybody wants to put a bounty out there, and I'll go race for it. I'm 1 for 1 right now. Maybe I can get an extra $1 million if I win all 10. I don't know.
Of course, he's referring to because of his Cup status, 5 or more years experience, he can only race in 10 Xfinity Series races this year.
Pretty good start, but we spoke about parity at the top of the show, Adam. The Fords are 1-2, then you got a Toyota and 4 Chevys lined up behind the Toyotas. So we're seeing that this year. Last year, such a dominating year for Joe Gibbs Racing, and the way those Toyotas performed, it looks like the gap's been closed.
If you look at recent years here at this place, Michael Annett with a good team, because Junior Motorsports puts cars up front, not necessarily winning races, but they always have 2 or 3 cars that finish inside the top 10. That bodes well for Michael Annett, who's top 15 in his first 2 starts of the year with his new team. Who's driving that car, Mike?
Martin Waugh.
Yes. Now, if you were from Owensboro, Kentucky, and you didn't have the lowdown, you might call him Martin Roy.
Yes.
But since you are friendly with those north of the border, you know, in fact, he is Martin Waugh.
I spend a lot of time north of the border, and I love our Canadian fans. We have a wonderful truck race up there, and the fans are just so much into NASCAR, especially this time of year because it's a little chilly up top.
We've talked about Kentucky. We've talked about Canada. Now let's talk about the hometown kid, Las Vegas, Nevada's own Brendan Gaughan. And if he were to win here tomorrow, they'd tear the place down, I think.
He really would. And you know what's going to be fun on Race Hub next week? Remember, Monday through Wednesday, Race Hub is a special time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. But Brandon is playtime on his sand dune buggy. That's going to be a special on that Race Hub show on Wednesday.
And did you know that he's got a new business?
I did not.
Yeah, we're going to hear more about that as the weekend continues. A little distillery. City Lights Shine is the name of his new company.
I want to tell you, you won't find a more friendly, fun-loving guy than Brendan Gaughan. You walk down that garage area and happen upon him, there's always a big smile on his face, and he's always looking forward to talking about getting behind the wheel of his car.
I like Brendan Gaughan. You can see the numbers there. 15th on the board of the 17 cars that have gone out and taken time. Continues to be Logano, Keselowski up top. And then it's Kyle Busch third. And here's his teammate, Daniel Suarez. The reigning champion making his second start of the year. Did not compete last week at Atlanta.
Yeah, Daniel was actually pretty quick in cup practice just a little bit earlier.
First lap, he goes to 5th, does Suarez.
That's a good opening lap. We've seen guys get faster after they've run a lap or two, so if he can do that, he could jump up toward the top of the chart.
A lot of cup drivers at the top of the scoring pylon. In fact, 4 of them inside the top 5, and we could add another soon. Kyle Larson climbing on board the 42. We'll see him next.
It's Viva Las Vegas as Xfinity rolls into Sin City. Find out which driver will bump and battle his way to a first-place finish at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Coverage begins tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1.
It is the opening race as NASCAR goes west, live from Las Vegas Motor Speedway tomorrow afternoon. Jamie McMurray going to be in the booth with Mike and me. Phoenix, our next stop. That's next Saturday. You can watch that race on Fox, 3:30 Eastern time. In fact, 3:30 is the only time you need to know because that's when we'll hit the airwaves from Fontana in a couple of weeks. And coming out west for some of these Xfinity Series teams can be a little bit challenging.
Well, it is, because most of the teams, no different than Cup, they do not go back and forth, but there's equipment that's going back and forth. But to me, a lot like in the Monster Energy Cup Series, after we get through this NASCAR goes west, and we've already been to Daytona and Atlanta, 5 completely different tracks, you kind of get a good feel for who's in trouble and who's in pretty good shape.
The announcement came this week. We're not going to come to Las Vegas just once in 2018. We're going to come twice. And you know who's happy about that? Brad Keselowski, because he's pretty good when it comes to this joint, Chris.
Yeah, he is, and coming off a strong weekend in Atlanta. You know, Brad really dominated that first stage in Atlanta. After that, he didn't have the speed that he had in the first stage, just saying that the car was a little bit tight in the center and trying to adjust that car to turn better in the center but not lose what he was getting off. And talking to Greg Irwin, his crew chief, about that today, he said a lot of the characteristics they're dealing with, the same as 2016. The big difference is back in 2016, the car was reacting that way. We were fighting for 7th and 8th on the racetrack. Now, we're fighting for winning results. Matt?
Chris, a year ago, throughout much of the 2016 season, Blake Cook just continued to impress, hoping to carry that momentum over to 2017. Now, currently, he's made 2 runs so far during this session. The first run, the car was just way too tight, not on the splitter and not dragging, which was a great direction for Chris Rice to go. They made an adjustment. Blake went out and said, I really like the path we're going down. It has improved the car. We need more of that adjustment, which was up in the front of the race car. So currently 9th on the board, looking good for the 11.
And they need a good run, Matt, because out of the gates, things have not gone their way. Not bad at Daytona, but finished the race a little beat up, and then, of course, exiting way too early last weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway when they were involved in that early incident with Ty Dillon. And you talk about a guy that's off to an okay start. I mean, it all went pretty well for this guy, Ryan Reed, right?
Yeah, but we were looking for some performance out of Ryan at Atlanta. We thought with the way he finished the 2016 season, that team would be strong at Atlanta. They really struggled, didn't get the finish they were looking for. So, you know, you're only as good as your last race, Adam, when you race these things. And you know that Atlanta, the track setup, the way you drive the track is indicative of what you're going to see a lot in this season. And this team really needs to get get a good run in here in Vegas.
Yeah, had a good qualifying run, top 10 at Atlanta, but the best they could come up with was an 18th place finish in the race.
38 minutes to go. Opening practice for Xfinity teams here at Las Vegas. Saw Ryan Reed on track. Let's go on board with Brennan Poole out of the Woodlands, Texas. Second year full-time in the series.
Love this shot. It's going to show you the bumps. Look at his head moving around and how much wheel input he has to put in it to get that car cranked down to the bottom of the corner. It's a great shot. Look how much work he's doing there, keeping that thing heading the right direction.
And that was in turn 3 and 4. The bumps are worse in 1 and 2. Am I right about that?
Well, the bumps continue to get worse every time we come here. So when they the worse they are in 1 and 2, then that means it's getting roughed down in 3 and 4 as well. So I think it's pretty much a challenge everywhere. This place, I mean, if you're a shot guy, you got to have a big smile on your face because you can really make a difference in the way the car gets around the track.
Good luck finding balance, crew chief.
A lot easier to find it here, I think, than Atlanta, though.
Yeah. Joey Logano continues to be quickest in Xfinity Series practice. Teammate Brad Keselowski behind him. Kyle Busch, William Byron, Daniel Suarez, the top 5. 36 minutes to go. About halfway through this opening practice session for Xfinity teams at Las Vegas. Logano, Keselowski, Kyle Busch. Kyle Larson has made a run. He's now 4th. And 5th, Rookie of the Year contender William Byron. So a good start for him here as he gets set to make his Las Vegas debut. And a great start to 2017. 2nd in the championship standings. And back-to-back top 10s to start the year, doing all the things he needs to do as William Byron. And he's got some good leadership. His teammate, Elliott Sadler, the only guy in front of it.
Well, Elliott Sadler driving this one car. You see him out there on the racetrack now. He got that top 5 finish at Atlanta, but remember, he got those 20 points, 10 each for winning those 2 stages at Daytona a couple of weeks ago.
And he jumps up into the top 10, 7th on lap 2 around the track. So good performance out of the Junior Motorsports cars. There you see the young and the restless.
Well, you know, if you look at this and just look down here at the bottom. So first career victory right here. Nazareth, Pennsylvania for Elliott Sadler in May of '97. And then 6 or 7 months later, William Byron came into the world, you know?
That's awesome.
That'll make you feel old really quickly.
And, you know, it's just so cool that William Byron can go to Elliott Sadler and say, what do you think this track's going to do? What do I need to be looking for? Trends. How am I going to get my car faster as we work our way through practice? And Elliott is an open book there to help.
What's up, Matt?
Brandon Gaughan continuing to look for speed in the 62 here, repping his alumni colors. The Georgetown Hoyas on his helmet this weekend here. The car just too tight, actually right before the center, but it gets off the wall, he says, very well. A little bit tighter there. They're going to look at shocks here on the 62. Meanwhile, just across the garage area, the 6, Bubba Wallace, his car was tight, going right up to the wall. He said it was more like it was bouncing on the right front. He was P6, just got bumped down to 7th.
And now actually on our board showing 8th, Matt. And most surprising to me, Wallace went out, made 1 lap, and came back in. So he obviously didn't feel good about where he was with it. Is that reading something too much into it or not?
No, I don't think so. You're going to learn things in 1 lap that you need to know or you need to correct, and that's what Bubba did. We've seen most guys make more laps, though. Kyle Larson has started to move the groove up there. You talked about it in the opening, how these Xfinity cars would wander around on the racetrack and making sure the grooves are all there. You can see not pinned right to the bottom. Larson's sort of in the middle of the groove, even higher in 3 and 4.
Yeah, these tires, we talked about the grippier tire, and it wasn't 30 minutes into the cup practice. You could start to see a lot of rubber being laid down. So you can see he's moved up about a half a lane off the bottom in 3 and 4 and about a lane off 1 and 2.
And you know what that means? Great racing. If these guys get to where they can take those grippier tires and run up in the gray area of the corner, widening this racetrack out, we're going to see a lot of passing, and that's exactly what Larson is figuring out there. He did get off the gas, got up a little higher, I think, than he wanted to there, but that's how you work in that outer groove. And Kyle Larson committed himself to the bottom last Saturday in the Xfinity race, Larry, and it really paid off on Sunday. It helped him there as well. So I know all the other Monster Energy Series drivers were studying what Larson did and how he learned from his Xfinity ride. And look, they'll be watching what happens here this weekend.
Larson has moved from 4th to 5th. That's because Daniel Suarez cut a fast lap. He is now fastest in the session, back into the top 10. Rookie Daniel Hemrick. What's the story there, Chris?
Well, I think we were definitely impressed with how William Byron ran at Atlanta. Daniel Hemrick also had a good day there for most of that race, running in the top 5. Had a little bit of contact late in the race with Kyle Larson, which knocked in the front of his car a little bit, and he said he was just way aero-tight the second or the last about 20 laps of that race, so he fell back a bit. But he said, hey, the great thing is I'm talking to all my teammates. I'm learning so much over here. And all of us are saying we've got great speed in the cars. And we know if we just try and minimize our mistakes, the results are going to come.
And he's a guy that has experience here, not in the Xfinity Series. 2 truck starts, runner-up, led laps here last September. That no doubt will help out Daniel Hemrick. Speaking of experience, a lot of track time this weekend for this guy, Daniel Suarez. He's P1, 30 minutes to go in practice. Daniel Suarez leads the way in practice. Here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, the top 4, and right behind him, Darrell Wallace Jr. back out on track, has turned a couple of laps since Matt had that report a minute ago, and that time he just put down, good enough to go to 5th on the speed charts. And he was really good in his debut in an Xfinity car here a couple of years ago. But last season, not the result he wanted, a hard hit when he had nowhere to go coming off of turn 2.
Yeah, it's just qualifying, trying to crank it to the bottom of the car. So look at that damage. I mean, just parts flying everywhere and tough break.
Yeah, that one hit still wasn't done. He got hit again.
And this has been a really good track for Darrell. Mike, you and I were talking during the break there about the fact a few years ago we came here, 2014, when Darrell was driving a truck for Kyle Busch, and he and Eric Jones put on a heck of a show on that Saturday night. Jones ended up winning. Darrell was second, but it was fun to watch those two.
And he just cut a heck of a lap, too, because he bumped inside the top 5, broke up that little Monster Energy Cup Series group up there.
Yes, he did. William Byron has spent some time in the top 5 today. Right now, the rookie out of Charlotte, back in 7th. Put 14 laps on the board in this opening session. That's more than anybody.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. When he went on the racetrack, he liked the way his car was handling, so he needs the experience. He needs to learn, put those laps on the board, solidly up in the top 10. Now he'll report to his crew exactly what he's feeling. And that's what I'm hearing from the crew down there, Adam. They really love listening to William. He can dissect a car as good as somebody with a lot of experience. He can really articulate what he's feeling, and that helps them work on the car.
They didn't listen to him much last week, you know. He had radio problems.
And we asked him, did that hurt your performance? He said, I think it definitely did, because I would have broken the corner down more. I would have been able to explain what I was doing on entry and what was hurting in the middle. Instead, they just had some signals that they were using to say pushing or loose, and he didn't get the finish he wanted.
You want to make some extra money this weekend, Larry?
Absolutely.
All right, keep your eye on Austin Dillon. Now, I know right now he's 22nd, but when you look at his history at this racetrack, you take a little money over there to one of those shops down on the strip, and you might be able to pay some dividends with this guy, an underdog that could deliver. What do you think?
I want to see a little better.
Okay.
Something happened in this practice, because he's only run 2 laps, so he definitely is not happy with this race car.
Yeah, when you run 1 lap like Bubba did, you're in the top 10, and you're not happy, that's a good thing.
Yes.
When you run a couple and have the experience and the knowledge that Austin does, and you're outside the top 20, that's a bad thing.
I'm just going on past history, because he won here a couple years ago and really laid it on him. We talked about that in the Xfinity race. Has a truck win here and top 5 a season ago at NASCAR's top level in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup event. So he certainly has got a good history at this place.
Solid start to the day for Matt Tifft. 12th fastest so far, right down on the bottom of the road. I like the way that car looks.
It's kind of where he's been, top 12. Did it at Daytona, again last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Daniel Suarez, top of the board in Las Vegas.
Loving NASCAR goes west? Then don't miss NASCAR Race Hub, weekdays on FS1. This week, Joey Logano and Chad Knaus drop by to give us their take on all the action from Las Vegas. On Tuesday, it's all the best sights and sounds from Sin City in Radioactive. Plus, Dave Moody returns with a fan stake in The Pulse. That's all this week on NASCAR Race Hub. Monday through Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And on Thursday, 6 p.m. Only on FS1.
I'd say it's a pretty good lineup this week. And you two are both staying out west.
We are.
So you will not be a part of NASCAR Race Hub. Don't worry. Shannon and I are going to do our duties here tomorrow. We'll go back and hold the fort down. All right, you guys have a good
We'll
time.
be watching. You know
Okay.
I will be.
Yeah, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Make a
got
note
it.
of that. That's 4 out here on the West Coast. Okay.
Just before I have my dinner.
So we saw the top 10 there. Suarez at the top, and for a good while it was the Penske teammates, Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski. I cannot believe this is the first time ever that Joey Logano has competed at Las Vegas in the Xfinity Series. But if it goes like late last year when he was driving that 12 car, I think he's going to be just fine. Logano delivering at Watkins Glen in August, right? That's a place where he's been really good. Swept the races there 2 seasons ago. And as if that wasn't enough, a couple of months later, playoff race, he came down, spoiled the party. Unbelievable restart late at Charlotte. This was that Sunday night race after the Cup event, and Logano was able to get the win. He was a 2-0 last year driving the 12 car.
I got to tell you, that move he made at Charlotte, down on the bottom of the racetrack, with that thing bottoming out, sparks flying, and he was able to keep that thing on the bottom of the racetrack and grab the race lead. What a move.
Pretty good numbers there. Top 10 in 12 of his last 13 starts in the Xfinity Series. And Team Penske with a couple of wins here. One for Brad Keselowski when he swept the weekend in 2014. Who has the other Penske win at Las Vegas in the Xfinity Series?
Let's go to Matt, and we'll think about it for a
All
second.
right, Matt, break up this trivia juggernaut up here.
All righty. Well, you know, I love trivia, and I love what you guys bring to the table with your knowledge. And looking at the 16 car here of Ryan Reed, he was 10th, dropped down to 11th now in the previous run. The team saw a little bit of smoke off turn 2. Why are you guys laughing? A little bit of smoke off. This is why I love this show.
We're laughing because as soon as I asked the trivia question, Larry went straight to the media guy. That's against the rules,
Now,
Matt.
see that break? He's a rule breaker. It's like I tell my daughter Madison, you know what I love about you? You're a rule follower, not a rule breaker. Come on, Larry Matt, get with it.
There are rule makers and rule breakers.
Oh, see, that's a former crew chief, especially at inspection time. But when you look here at Ryan Reed, they had a tire rub on the previous run, they thought, but when the car came in, all the tires looked fine. Didn't see any markings. The most previous run here, the last run here, the car just not to his liking. Spring change here in the right rear. 2-time Daytona winner. This team really focused on trying to excel on the intermediate tracks and score a win on this type of discipline.
And this has been a good venue for the Roush guys over the years. All-time wins leader at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Most of those courtesy of Mark Martin. Okay, answer to the trivia question. Michael, you go first.
Sam Hornish Jr.
You got it. You didn't cheat, so
No.
you're the winner. You just knew. You're a good teammate.
That's exactly right. I love being a teammate. And, man, he was strong that day, too.
This is when he was running for the championship when they were fielding 2 cars full-time. How about that outside lane power move on that restart?
And I'm pretty sure that was Kyle Busch in that car that he was making that move on.
Yeah.
That puts an exclamation point by a pass like that when you drive around a guy that's won 87 Xfinity races.
We haven't seen Sam in a while, and we've used the word dominant today quite a bit. Remember last June when the 3 of us were together at Iowa? He was pretty good driving that car that Kyle Busch normally drives. Sam winning here in 2013, getting the captain to victory lane for the first time in the Xfinity Series in Sin City.
Yeah, it's rare that Team Penske that they run the 2 cars in the Xfinity Series, but it's like when they get the sponsorship to do it, then that's when they show up with 2.
See the drivers double dipping this weekend, and Roger Penske is double dipping. Not just NASCAR in Las Vegas. He's got Indy cars opening up the season at St. Pete. They were 1-2 in practice. So far, so good for Mr. Penske. On board with Kyle Larson, he's 6th quick in the session.
The car's pretty good. It's a hair tight over the bumps in 1 and 2, 3 and 4. I also just get a little tight over some bumps. I just kind of maybe feel like the nose kind of moves around a little too much.
And I think that's definitely something that Mike Shiplett, his crew chief, will address, because you get a feeling that the longer you get into a run, you start burning that fuel load off, starts gaining some front percentage, that it's going to get tighter. Plus, I think the more rubber that goes down on the racetrack, it'll start to tighten up.
Yeah, and Adam, you asked were the bumps rougher in 1 and 2, and they definitely are, but I think we see more bumping in 3 and 4 than we did just a year ago here. So that's what the teams are getting used to. How severe is it in each end of the corners, and how do we adjust for it? There's so many different things they can do to try to help those things through the bumps. Shocks, springs, timing of the sway bar, you name it, Larry. The laundry list is a mile long.
Yeah, because, Adam, normally if the car is a little loose, it'll chatter the rear tires across those bumps and just get looser. Front tires, if it's tight, chatters the front tires. It just keeps getting tighter.
As a driver, you don't want to deal with it, but do you appreciate it, enjoy it, knowing the fact that this place has some character?
Every driver down there loves it. They think they're better than the other guy. You know, they're all studs. They can get the job done. Track's rough. Put me behind the wheel, coach.
16 minutes to go in practice. We're live at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Michael, you're staying out here. Between here and Phoenix, you should drive your Toyota rental car and follow Toyota Racing on Twitter and use the hashtag NASCAR Goes West. Document your trip.
I do all that.
Yeah?
I do all that.
Okay. Well, I'm just reminding you. Well, and speaking of Toyotas, pretty fast so far today.
Yeah, and I'd like for folks to follow me along as I head around out west. I don't know what I might get into.
You know, it's hard to believe that win last year with Kyle Busch, that was not only Joe Gibbs's first win here in Xfinity Series, but it was Toyota's first win.
199 of 200 laps out front for Kyle Busch. Second to him last year, Daniel Suarez, Chris.
Yeah, and Daniel Suarez very happy with his race car today. He's on the board to be in the Xfinity car for, up to possibly 20 races this year. But talking to his crew chief on the Cup side, Dave Rogers said, that's a little bit up in the air. We want to see how everything's going on the Cup side. If it feels like we're taking away from this program, then we're going to make some adjustments there, because obviously the Cup program is the priority. But obviously with what's going on here today, he had speed on the Cup side earlier in the practice. He's got a lot of speed in this car right now.
I just think it helps. I think that young man is going to understand more about what to expect tomorrow afternoon, or excuse me, Sunday afternoon, by racing here tomorrow.
No doubt a delicate balance, but that added track time has got to be good. And you always want to learn every aspect of the game. What's William Byron doing right here?
He's coming to pit road, and this is one of the toughest pit roads to get to, Adam. And you heard William downshifting there and trying to make sure he just has a grasp on what it's going to be like. He'll continue to refine that. He doesn't want to slide his tires. Tires are precious. You don't want to mess the set up, but you definitely want to understand what it's like coming to pit road.
I didn't go all the way back, but if you go back to 2009, only one time have we had fewer than 5 speeding penalties. That could be a big thing. Now, stage racing changes that a little bit, because very likely you're not going to make a green flag pit stop in stage 1 or stage 2 tomorrow, but that final stage, very well, 110 laps, we could see some green flag pit stops.
This place is notorious for pit road speeding penalties. In fact, if you look at the last 10 Cup races here, we've had a total of 70. And remember, since we were here last year, they only come here once a year with Xfinity and Cup. Of course, that's going to change for 2018. They've added segments. They've almost doubled it.
Elliott Sadler on track, currently 7th. And there you see the numbers I was talking about. 2013, we had 4 speeding penalties. Outside of that, at least 5. And how about 2 years ago? There were 19 speeding penalties here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And with the changes that Larry spoke of, the added timing lines, it could be a big challenge here when we go green tomorrow afternoon. 11 minutes to go in practice. Daniel Suarez, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Darrell Wallace Jr. up top. Gotta be the most distracting place to work an event in the booth on the NASCAR schedule here at Las Vegas, because just off the back straightaway, Nellis Air Force Base, and you see all kinds of activity in the air and plenty of activity on track this weekend. Tomorrow it's the Xfinity cars doing battle for the 3rd time in 2017. We're here on FS1, 3:30 Eastern time. Move to Fox on Sunday. It's race 3 for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. 3 p.m. Eastern time is when we're on the air.
We saw Kyle Larson wandering around on the track trying to burn in an upper groove. Matt, this guy, Brendan Gaughan, he doesn't mind going upstairs.
Not at all. A lot of different agendas. You're starting to see a lot of movement on the scoring pylon. And the previous time out on the racetrack, the 62 just wiggled going into turn 3 on both laps. came back in and said he just cannot keep that car on the bottom through 3 and 4 like he would like. They made some changes on his way back out. Just under 8 minutes left here in this practice.
I'm wondering if they made a mock qualifying run, because Gahn just went to the top. What do you think here? And maybe Matt can follow up. But.
Well, I would have to say, if you ran a 29.57, I think that absolutely has to be a mock qualifying run, no question.
And the RCR cars, as we see Ty Dillon here, not showing the speed probably that we would have thought, Michael, so far.
Yeah, no, but that's a great sign. Maybe there were some different science projects going on with the practice session, attacking it different for the different cars. They've got so many assets out there. It'd be nice to spread around assignments and see if you can learn.
The back end of this car is kind of purple, but when I saw it in the garage, it had a little bit of a blue tint to it, the way the shadows were hitting it. You know what I thought of immediately? The Wrangler car.
Yeah.
Doesn't it look a little bit like that scheme that Earnhardt ran for years?
With a 3 on the side, that's for sure.
The Wrangler jeans machine.
Instead, it's Nexium.
But you know, you
need
talk
one if you gamble too much.
You talk about trying things. I think about what Matt Yoakum said at the top of the show when he was talking to some teams about doing a little testing and tuning. They just don't get an opportunity to try many things on many given race weekends.
Confidence not a problem here. Chris documented earlier how good this team ran last week, talking about Team Penske in the 22 in comparison to where they were in 2016 when you look at the downforce tracks that we go to. And I would say they feel pretty good about their speed so far this afternoon. Both Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano inside the top 5. Darrell Wallace Jr., 8 laps in practice here at Las Vegas. 6th that appears to be getting a nice education.
Great run in Atlanta for this team. Good looking Lydios colors on that Ford, and Bubba's really excited about the start to the season and the way they were able to perform in Atlanta, and backing it up with a great practice here. That's a good sign for this team.
Not his best career finish, certainly, but I said most impressive run he's ever had in an Xfinity car. You agree with that last week?
I think so. Just fought hard and got better all day long. The race didn't seem to start out great, but it finished great.
Overall, the Fords have a lot of speed today, Chris.
Yeah, Joey Logano 3rd on the board, so happy with your race car. Done probably about 10-15 minutes early here, so you're happy with it?
No, I'm never happy. You're just saving some tires for the next practice, and these tires don't wear out much, but the cycles sometimes throw you for a little bit of a loop every now and again. So just trying to make sure we're methodical about our changes and use the time the best we know how. It is hard for me, though, to watch practice up here from a trailer. That's really hard for me, but hopefully it pays off.
Thanks, Joey.
5 minutes to go in practice. Early on, Joey Logano was fastest. Then it was Daniel Suarez. Now it's all about the Georgetown Hoya. Brendan Gaughan, P1 at his home track. Our Fast Friday coverage presented by K&N continues live from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Coming up next, top of the hour, it's the UFC weigh-in. And just over an hour from now, Xfinity final practice at 6, followed by qualifying for the Cup cars. You can see both of those over on FS2 when our race coverage continues here on the Fox family of networks. Daniel Suarez, second quick, appears to be happy with the race car. And here's the guy that won here a couple of seasons ago. I'm singing his praises. Austin Dillon still looking for some speed.
Well, they're starting to run more laps. You know, well over halfway through this session, they'd only run a couple laps. He's coming to complete lap 12. The most laps been running this practice is actually Matt Tiff and Daniel Hemrick. They've run 29 laps each. Of course, a couple of our rookies.
Next in line, Kyle Busch, 25 laps for the veteran. Another hometown guy. Mentioned Daniel Hemrick. There he is.
Solid run for Daniel at Atlanta. Top 10 finish. Had that crash in Daytona, so got to Atlanta and had some good speed throughout practice and in the race as well. So he's going to be a fun driver to watch this year.
One of the many drivers that had a nice bounce back, because if you remember, middle stages of that race, he was running 5th, came down pit road, slid through his stall, went out 15th, but battled back to finish in the top 10. A little adversity, and he was able to come back, and now doing what he needs to do.
Looked like he tried to make a good, solid, strong run to that pit road line. You noticed how it's difficult to transition from the racetrack down onto the flat of pit road, and I think that's why you see so many speeding penalties, because these guys are struggling to get down to speed, making that exit off the track.
And in that final practice, NASCAR has a computer screen that they use up in the NASCAR tower. They're going to have that at the NASCAR Xfinity Series hauler during final practice for teams to be able to look at it.
Opening practice, Larry Mack, is done.
It
You got
is.
55 minutes to get it all ironed out. Here are the top 10. Brendan Gaughan put up a big lap late. Suarez, Logano, William Byron, and Brad Keselowski, the quickest 5 in Sin City. What do you say about it, Matt?
Brendan Gaughan certainly has the speed. Is it hard not to get too jacked up, though, wanting to do well at your home track?
Well, you definitely always have been able to muscle up here. I mean, even when the Kodak days, we practiced and qualified well, but I feel pretty good about South Point Chevy. You know, that's a qualifying run, and not many guys did. So, I mean, that's kind of a false number, but it definitely feels good when you're in Vegas. You're P1 on the board, you'll take it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Chris?
Well, Las Vegas isn't Daniel Suarez's home track, but when NASCAR goes west, we're definitely closer to your hometown, Monterrey, Mexico. When you come out here, you've got a lot more fans. How busy are these 3 weeks?
For me, it's very fun to come to the West Coast because you just say that, you know, it's a lot of good fans, a lot of people with a lot of support. And I'm not saying that the East Coast is not like this. It's a lot of support as well, but just in the West Coast, it's a little bit different, you know. But I'm just having a lot of fun racing in the 20 Xfinity car, Intercept batteries there at Camry. The car is very fast. We had some good speed with this car. Now we're going to jump into a Cup car a little bit as well for the qualify. So a little busy day, but a lot of fun.
Last year, the Joe Gibbs car so strong at this racetrack. Now the competition has definitely gotten a little bit tighter. You guys still as confident as you were in 2016?
Obviously, I'm very confident. I have a lot of confidence on my team. The entire Joe Gibbs Racing team has been doing an amazing job. A lot of change from 2016 to 2017. And I felt like we still have a lot of speed, but everything is tight now. A lot of people is there. Lap time wise, everyone is in the top 10 super tight. So now I guess we will have to work a little bit more hard to get that win.
Thanks, Daniel.
Chris, I just cannot get used to seeing him in a green cap. Typically, it's the orange for Daniel Suarez, but got the Interstate Battery colors in the Xfinity Series this weekend. There are your top 2 from practice. Brendan Gaughan admitted to Matt Yoakum that was a mock qualifying run, a 29.57. I would say more mock runs coming up in final practice, right?
I think you can bet on that, and also the teams investigating their pit road speeds. That'll be interesting to follow, and then getting these cars tuned up for the long runs. A theme that carried on from Atlanta, the parity, Ford, Toyota, Chevy, all 3 up at the top.
Yeah, we got parity there. Joey Logano's 3rd in that Ford.
You can go away, but don't go far, because we got to work again in an hour. NASCAR's coverage shifting over to FS2, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, it's UFC Weigh In live on FS1. Watch and enjoy.